When the first rays of sunlight pierce through our window and a new day dawns on the horizon, we have before us a unique and precious opportunity to begin our daily journey under divine protection and guidance. Among all the spiritual practices that can transform our days, morning prayer based on Psalm 3 stands out as one of the most powerful and comforting. Psalm 3, known as David's morning psalm, carries with it a special force that transcends the centuries. Written during one of the most challenging moments of King David's life, when he was fleeing from his own son Absalom, who had rebelled against him, this psalm was born from anguish but flourished in unwavering trust in the Lord. This ancient prayer teaches us that even when we face the most difficult situations, when it seems that the whole world turns against us, when problems multiply like waves of a storm, we can still find refuge, protection, and peace in the presence of the Most High. To truly understand the power of Psalm 3, we need to delve into the story that originated it. David, the man after God's own heart, the valiant warrior who defeated giants, the anointed king who led Israel to great victories, found himself in a humanly desperate situation. His own son, Absalom, had rebelled against his authority and won the people's hearts, forcing David to flee from Jerusalem to save his life. Imagine the deep pain this father felt, being betrayed by the one he loved most, seeing his kingdom threatened, having to leave his city and thrown to hide in the mountains. It was dawn when David, tired and afflicted but not defeated in spirit, lifted his heart to God. In that moment of extreme vulnerability, one of the most beautiful and powerful prayers of all time was born. Psalm 3 is not just a desperate plea. It is a declaration of unshakable faith, a testimony of absolute trust in God's protective power. This morning prayer that David offered became a model for all of us who face daily battles, whether external or internal, physical or spiritual. It teaches us that our first response to difficulties should always be to seek the Lord's face. Let us examine this extraordinary psalm verse by verse. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Psalm 3 verse 1. David begins by honestly acknowledging the magnitude of his problems. He doesn't minimize his difficulties nor pretend that everything is fine. This transparency before God is fundamental in our prayer life. When we begin our day, it's important to be honest about the challenges we face, the worries we carry, and the fears that haunt us. David's foes were not only external, his rebellious son, the soldiers pursuing him, the subjects who turned against him. They were also internal, doubt, despair, the temptation to give up. Similarly, our morning adversaries could be work concerns, family problems, health issues, financial difficulties, or simply the discouragement that sometimes overtakes us upon waking. Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. Psalm 3 verse 2. Here David reveals something even more painful than external attacks. The voices that question his faith, suggesting that not even God can help him in that situation. These voices can come from other people, critics, pessimists, those who don't understand our faith. But often, the cruelest voice is our own inner voice, whispering doubts about God's love and power. How many times, especially in the early morning hours when our mind is still processing worries, do we hear similar whispers? God won't help you this time. Your situation is irreversible. You're alone in this battle. David teaches us to recognize these lying voices and contradict them with God's truth. This is the turning verse of the psalm. After honestly acknowledging his problems and the negative voices around him, David makes a powerful declaration of faith. The word but marks a crucial transition from circumstances to God's character, from problems to solution, from despair to hope. David describes God as a shield around me, not just a shield we hold in front, but complete protection, 360-degree coverage. This image is particularly powerful for our morning prayer. When we begin the day declaring that God is our shield, we are establishing spiritual coverage for all situations we will face. God is also my glory, our source of dignity, value, and purpose. Even when others diminish us or when we feel worthless, God remains as our glory, our true honor, and He is the one who lifts my head high, a powerful image of restoration and dignity. When we are downcast by shame, discouragement, or defeat, God gently lifts our face so we can look up again to Him and to the future He has prepared. I call out to the Lord, and He answers me from His holy mountain. Psalm 3, verse 4. David testifies about the effectiveness of prayer. He called out, a word indicating urgency, intensity, a cry that comes from the heart. And God answered, not just heard, but actively responded. The answer came from His holy mountain, from a place of holiness, authority, and power. For us, this means that our morning prayer is not a monologue in the void. When we cry out to God at the beginning of the day, we can be certain that He hears and responds. His answer may come in different forms. Through inner peace, circumstances that align, people who appear to help, or simply through renewed strength to face challenges. I lie down and sleep, I wake again, because the Lord sustains me. Psalm 3, verse 5. This verse reveals something extraordinary about David's faith. Even in the midst of crisis, he was able to sleep peacefully. This is not negligence or lack of awareness about the situation's gravity, but such deep trust in God that his soul found rest even in the storm. For our morning prayer life, this verse is a powerful declaration of gratitude for the previous night's rest and recognition that it was God who sustained us during the vulnerable hours of sleep. Each morning is a testimony to God's faithfulness. He watched over us during the night and granted us a new day. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Psalm 3, verse 6. David's courage doesn't come from ignorance about danger or an optimistic assessment of the situation. He acknowledges that there are tens of thousands against him, that he is surrounded by enemies. But his courage comes from something much deeper, the certainty that God is greater than all the forces combined against him. This declaration of faith is particularly powerful for starting our day. When we declare in the morning that we will not fear, we are not denying the existence of real challenges or dangers. We are affirming that our trust in God is greater than our fear of circumstances. Arise, Lord. Deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. Psalm 3, verse 7. David makes a direct appeal to God for divine intervention, but notice how he does it. Based on victory, not defeat. He uses the past tense, strike, break, as if victory were already an accomplished fact. This is the language of faith that sees the end from the beginning. In our morning prayer, we are invited to do the same, appeal for God's intervention based on his past victories, both in our personal life and in human history. We remind God and ourselves of his previous faithfulness as the foundation of our current confidence. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Psalm 3, verse 8. The psalm concludes with a profound theological declaration. Salvation, in all its forms, comes exclusively from God. It doesn't come from our strength, wisdom, resources, or connections. It comes from the Lord. David then extends his prayer beyond himself, invoking blessings upon all of God's people. Even in his own need, he doesn't forget the faith community. His prayer expands from personal to communal, from individual to collective. Now that we understand the context and content of Psalm 3, let's explore practical ways to incorporate its principles into our morning prayer routine. Begin your morning prayer time by being honest about your feelings and circumstances. Just as David didn't minimize his problems, don't try to mask your concerns before God. If you're anxious about a work presentation, worry about finances, or dealing with family conflicts, bring these issues honestly to God. Honesty is not a sign of spiritual weakness. It's a sign of intimacy with God. He already knows all our fears and concerns. When we express them in prayer, we're not informing him of something he didn't know, but we're opening our heart to receive his comfort and guidance. Identify the negative voices that bombard your mind in the early hours of the day. These might be concerns about your professional competence, doubts about your ability to be a good parent, anxieties about your health, or questions about your personal worth. Just as David recognized the voices saying there is no deliverance for him in God, we need to recognize and name the lies we hear. Only when we clearly identify them can we refute them with God's truth. This is the heart of morning prayer based on Psalm 3. After honestly acknowledging your problems and negative voices, make powerful declarations of faith about who God is to you. Lord, you are my shield around me today. You are my glory and my dignity. You are the one who lifts my head. You are my source of courage and strength. You are my protector in all situations. These declarations are not empty positive affirmations or wishful thinking. They are biblical truths about God's character that we choose to believe and declare, regardless of our momentary feelings. Include a moment of gratitude for the previous night's rest. Acknowledge that sleeping and waking are gifts from God. Thank Him for watching over you during the vulnerable hours of sleep and for granting you a new day full of possibilities. Just as David declared he would not fear thousands against him, make your own declaration of courage for the beginning day. It might be something like, I will not fear today's challenges because the Lord is with me. I will not be intimidated by difficulties because God is greater than all of them. I will face this day with courage, knowing that God goes before me. Present specific requests to God for intervention in your particular situations. Be specific and clear, but do so based on God's past faithfulness, not just your present needs. Conclude your morning prayer by interceding for others, your family, friends, co-workers, your church, your community. Just as David prayed for God's people, expand your vision beyond your own needs. The consistent practice of morning prayer based on Psalm 3 produces lasting fruit in our spiritual life. It's not just a religious ritual, but a spiritual discipline that transforms our perspective and daily experience. When we begin the day seeking God, we automatically establish the correct priorities for the coming hours. Instead of being dragged by the urgency of external demands, we create a spiritual center of gravity that keeps us balanced throughout the day. Faith, like any muscle, strengthens with exercise. When we daily practice declaring truths about God, even when we don't feel them, our capacity to trust develops and deepens. Morning prayer establishes spiritual coverage over our day. Not that it makes us immune to problems, but it places us under God's conscious protection and keeps us sensitive to His guidance during the following hours. One of the distinctive marks of those who practice consistent morning prayer is an inner peace that transcends circumstances. Like David, who could sleep even surrounded by enemies, we develop a trust in God that produces genuine tranquility. Modern science confirms what prayer practitioners have always known. Starting the day with prayer produces measurable benefits for our mental and emotional health. Studies show that prayer and meditation practices significantly reduce cortisol levels, the stress hormone. When we begin the day centering our mind on truths about God, we interrupt the anxiety cycle that often dominates our first thoughts. Morning prayer disciplines our mind to concentrate on what is important and true. This translates into better focus capacity during the day, greater productivity, and less susceptibility to distractions. People who practice regular morning prayer demonstrate greater resilience in the face of adversity. Daily connection with a source of strength greater than ourselves equips us to face challenges with more equanimity and perspective. When we begin the day with our heart aligned with God, this reflects in how we treat people around us. The patience, kindness, and understanding that flow from a heart at peace with God naturally improve our relationships. Many people desire to establish a morning prayer routine, but face obstacles that seem insurmountable. Let's address the most common ones and offer practical solutions. This is probably the most cited obstacle. I don't have time to pray in the morning is a statement we hear frequently. The truth is that we always have time for what we prioritize. Solution: start small. Even 5 minutes make a difference. Wake up just 5 minutes earlier, or use the time you would normally spend scrolling your phone in bed. As you experience the benefits, you'll naturally find ways to expand this time. Many people report difficulty concentrating in morning prayer due to sleepiness. Solution: try praying aloud, even quietly. The act of verbalizing helps keep the mind engaged. It can also help to drink a glass of water before praying, or do some light stretching to awaken the body. There are mornings when we simply don't feel like praying. Our feelings don't seem to confirm our faith. Solution: remember that faith doesn't depend on feelings. Pray especially when you don't feel like it, because these are the moments when we most need God's presence. Use Psalm 3 as a guide even when the words seem empty. God's faithfulness doesn't depend on the intensity of our feelings. Our mind can be bombarded by worries, to-do lists, and anxieties right in the morning. Solution: use these very distractions as prayer material. If your mind is worried about an important meeting, pray specifically about that meeting. If you're anxious about finances, take that anxiety to God. Don't fight against the thoughts. Surrender them to God. Some people hesitate to pray when they feel their life isn't aligned with their spiritual values. Solution: remember that prayer is not a reward for good behavior, but a means of grace for imperfect people. David prayed even when he had made serious mistakes. Our need for God is even greater when we're struggling spiritually. The physical environment can make a significant difference in the quality of our morning prayer. We don't need an elaborate space, but some simple considerations can enrich our experience. Choose a specific place in your home for morning prayer. It could be a comfortable chair, a corner of the room, or even the kitchen table. The important thing is consistency. Your brain will associate the space with prayer, facilitating the transition to a prayerful state of mind. Turn off or silence electronic devices. The temptation to check messages or news can be irresistible, but these distractions fragment our attention and diminish the quality of our prayer. Some people benefit from having a Bible, prayer journal, or even a lit candle during morning prayer. These elements are not necessary, but can help create an atmosphere that facilitates concentration and reverence. Experiment with different postures to discover what works best for you. Some people concentrate better standing, others kneeling, others sitting. The posture should facilitate both concentration and reverence. While Psalm 3 is powerful on its own, you can enrich your morning prayer by incorporating elements from other psalms or spiritual practices. Try combining Psalm 3 with other morning psalms, such as Psalm 5, "Listen to my words, Lord," Psalm 90, "Lord, you have been our dwelling place," or Psalm 143, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love." Many people enrich their morning prayer by including spiritual songs. Music has the power to lift our spirit and facilitate the expression of faith and gratitude. Consider including a brief Bible reading after your Psalm 3 base prayer. This could be a verse of the day, a chapter from Proverbs corresponding to the day of the month, or a passage from a Bible reading plan. Some people find it helpful to write their prayers and reflections after praying Psalm 3. This record can become a powerful testimony of God's faithfulness over time. When we establish a morning prayer routine, it inevitably impacts our family life in positive ways. Children learn more from what they observe than from what we tell them. When they see us consistently seeking God in the morning, we plant powerful seeds in their hearts about the importance of spiritual life. A person who begins a day centered on God tends to radiate peace and patience that benefits the whole family. Morning conflicts decrease, communication improves, and the home becomes a more harmonious environment. As you develop in your own morning prayer, you might feel inspired to occasionally include your family. This doesn't need to be long or complicated. Even a brief prayer of gratitude and protection can strengthen family bonds and establish a spiritual tone for everyone's day. Many morning prayer practitioners report a sense of spiritually covering their family through their prayers. While we can't guarantee that our family will be free from all problems, we can have confidence that we consciously place them under God's protection. Psalm 3 is not just David's personal prayer, but carries prophetic elements that point to broader truths about God's plan for humanity. Many scholars see in David's suffering a prefiguration of Christ's suffering. Just as David was rejected by those from whom he should expect loyalty, Christ was rejected by those he came to save. David's trust amid adversity echoes Christ's trust even on the cross. David's declaration about his enemies' defeat points to God's definitive victory over all forces of evil. Our morning prayer based on this psalm connects us with this eschatological hope, the confidence that, in the end, God will prevail. David's experience of divine protection amid danger prefigures the protection God offers to all his children. Our morning prayer aligns us with this promise of protection, not as a guarantee of easy life, but as confidence in God's presence with us in all circumstances. Throughout the centuries, countless people have testified about the transformative power of beginning the day with prayer based on Psalm 3. While each experience is unique, there are common themes that emerge consistently. Many people report that morning prayer revolutionized their perspective on daily problems. Situations that previously caused panic or despair began to be seen through the lens of faith. Not that problems magically disappeared, but they gained a different dimension when viewed from God's perspective. Regular morning prayer practitioners often develop greater sensitivity to God's guidance during the day. They report increased ability to discern divine direction in decisions, greater perception of opportunities to serve others, and sharper awareness of God's presence in everyday situations. A consistent theme in testimonies is improvement in relationships. People who begin the day centered on God tend to be more patient, understanding, and gentle with others. Conflicts decrease, communication improves, and relationships deepen. Perhaps the most powerful testimony comes from those who practice morning prayer before facing significant crises. They report that the established discipline of seeking God in the morning equipped them with spiritual resources that proved invaluable during times of loss, illness, unemployment, or other adversities. Establishing a morning prayer routine is one thing. Maintaining it consistently is another. Here are some practical strategies to help maintain this vital discipline. Don't try to start with hour-long prayer sessions. Begin with 5 or 10 minutes and gradually expand as the practice becomes natural. It's better to pray consistently for 5 minutes every day than to try to pray for an hour once a week. Set reminders on your phone or leave visual notes to remember to pray. Place a Bible open to Psalm 3 in a visible place, or establish a specific alarm for prayer. There will be days when your normal routine is interrupted. Have a contingency plan, perhaps a shorter version of the prayer that can be done in the car on the way to work, or a silent prayer while preparing for the day. Share your commitment to morning prayer with a friend or family member. You don't need to pray together necessarily, but having someone who asks about your practice can provide the extra motivation needed on difficult days. Keep a brief diary of your experiences with morning prayer. Record insights, answered prayers, changes in your perspective. This record will become a source of encouragement during periods when the practice seems less rewarding. There will be days when you miss your morning prayer. Don't condemn yourself or give up the practice. Simply resume the next day. Consistency is the goal, not perfection. One of the areas where morning prayer based on Psalm 3 shows the most tangible impact is in professional life. Starting the day centered on God transforms our approach to work in profound and practical ways. The modern work environment is often characterized by pressure, competition, and uncertainty. Those who practice morning prayer report significant reduction in work-related stress, not because their jobs become easier, but because they develop a more balanced perspective on professional challenges. The practice of seeking God in the morning cultivates wisdom and discernment that translate into better decisions during the workday. Many professionals testify about greater mental clarity and improved ability to evaluate complex situations. People who begin the day with prayer tend to be more patient, understanding, and collaborative in the workplace. This creates a more positive work environment and often leads to better team dynamics and professional opportunities. Many report that morning prayer opens their minds to creative solutions and innovative approaches to challenges. When we align ourselves with God's wisdom, we often find ourselves thinking outside conventional boxes and approaching problems from new angles. Interestingly, people who practice morning prayer often report higher levels of job satisfaction, even when their external circumstances haven't changed dramatically. This seems to stem from a sense of purpose and meaning that comes from viewing work as a form of service to God. Recent research in neuroscience and psychology provides fascinating insights into why morning prayer is so effective in transforming our daily experience. The brain's ability to rewire itself, neuroplasticity, means that consistent morning prayer literally changes our neural pathways. Regular practice strengthens the neural connections associated with peace, trust, and positive thinking, while weakening those associated with anxiety and negative rumination. Starting each day with the same spiritual practice creates what psychologists call an anchor habit, a consistent behavior that sets the tone for other positive behaviors throughout the day. This is why people who pray in the morning often find themselves making better choices all day long. Morning prayer activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response, and reduces cortisol production. This physiological change makes us more resilient to stressors throughout the day and improves both mental and physical health. The practice of declaring God's truths in the morning is a form of cognitive reframing, a therapeutic technique that helps us view situations from different, more positive perspectives. This skill, developed through prayer, becomes a powerful tool for managing challenges throughout the day. The practice of morning prayer based on Psalm 3 remains relevant and powerful through all seasons of life, though its application may vary depending on our circumstances. For young adults facing career decisions, relationship choices, and the establishment of independence, morning prayer provides stability and wisdom. The declaration of God as protector and guide is particularly meaningful during this season of uncertainty and possibility. Parents in the thick of child rearing find that morning prayer becomes a lifeline, a few moments of peace before the chaos of family life begins. Many report that these early moments with God give them patience and perspective they desperately need for the day ahead. Those in middle age often face unique pressures, caring for aging parents while supporting their own children, dealing with career pressures and health concerns. Morning prayer provides an anchor of stability and a reminder that God's strength is sufficient for all these challenges. Older adults often find that morning prayer takes on new depth and meaning. With more time available and a lifetime of experience with God's faithfulness, their morning prayers often become rich times of worship, gratitude, and intercession for others. During periods of illness, loss, unemployment, or other major life disruptions, morning prayer based on Psalm 3 becomes especially powerful. David's example of maintaining faith, even when everything seemed to be falling apart, provides a roadmap for navigating our own dark valleys. While morning prayer based on Psalm 3 is fundamentally a personal practice, it has profound communal implications. When individuals in a church community practice consistent morning prayer, it strengthens the entire body. People who start their days centered on God bring that spiritual strength and peace to corporate worship, Bible study, and service opportunities. Many morning prayer practitioners find their prayers naturally expanding to include others. What begins as personal petition often grows into intercession for family, friends, community, and even global concerns. Consistent morning prayer practitioners often become informal spiritual mentors to others, not through preaching, but through the observable peace and strength they carry. Their example inspires others to develop their own prayer lives. When multiple people in a community practice morning prayer, it creates spiritual momentum. Prayer requests are shared, testimonies of God's faithfulness are exchanged, and faith is strengthened corporately as well as individually. As your morning prayer practice matures, you may feel called to deepen and expand your time with God in various ways. Some experienced practitioners extend their morning prayer time to include longer periods of worship, Bible reading, and intercession. This might involve waking up significantly earlier, but many report that the spiritual benefits far outweigh the sacrifice of sleep. Combining morning prayer with fasting, whether from food, entertainment, or other pleasures, can intensify the spiritual experience and sharpen focus on God. This should be approached thoughtfully and with appropriate guidance. Some people combine their morning prayer with physical activity, taking prayer walks in their neighborhood or local park. This can be particularly effective for those who struggle to concentrate while sitting still. As you grow in your relationship with God through morning prayer, you may find yourself receiving specific words or impressions for others. These should be shared wisely and with humility, always in accordance with biblical principles. Mature prayer warriors often find their morning prayers taking on a warfare dimension, actively praying against spiritual forces that seek to harm their family, church, or community. This should be done with proper understanding of biblical principles of spiritual warfare. The practice of morning prayer based on Psalm 3 is not a destination but a journey, a daily recommitment to placing God first in our lives and trusting in His protection and provision. Like David, we will face many mornings when enemies seem to multiply and voices whisper that God cannot or will not help us. But also like David, we can learn to respond to these challenges not with fear, but with faith. Not with despair, but with declarations of God's goodness. The beauty of this ancient prayer is its timeless relevance. Whether we face personal betrayal like David, professional challenges, health crises, financial difficulties, or any of the myriad problems that characterize human existence, we can find in Psalm 3 a roadmap for beginning each day with confidence in God's protective love. As you embark on or deepen your practice of morning prayer, remember that consistency matters more than perfection, faith more than feelings, and God's faithfulness more than our circumstances. Each morning offers a new opportunity to experience the reality that from the Lord comes deliverance, and that his blessing truly does rest upon his people. May your mornings be transformed by the power of this ancient prayer, and may you discover, as countless believers before you have discovered, that beginning each day in God's presence is a key to living with unshakable peace, unstoppable hope, and unwavering trust in the one who is our shield, our glory, and the lifter of our heads. The journey of morning prayer is ultimately a journey into the heart of God himself, a daily pilgrimage that transforms not only how we start our days, but how we live our lives. In a world filled with uncertainty, anxiety, and fear, the practice of beginning each day with Psalm 3 offers something precious and rare, the peace that comes from knowing that we are held, protected, and loved by the Creator of the universe. Start tomorrow morning. Find a quiet place, open your Bible to Psalm 3, and begin this transformative journey. Your future self will thank you, your family will benefit, and most importantly, you will discover the incomparable joy of beginning each day in the presence of the one who loves you beyond measure and whose mercies are new every morning.